Ready, set, go.
Is this thing on?
I can never get involved with him.
There he is. He's back.
That's right.
Miss was in charge of your line the other day, Canaan.
And
No
I
way.
failed.
She dropped the ball.
I literally failed. Like, it was bad. Okay, so you know how, like, you get in a routine of things and you hear the intro music and you're just like, yeah, this is great.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it completely was no music. And Phil's like, is this thing on? And I just stare at him and he went,
Yeah, I've been.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah. We haven't played the intro music for us to hear for a while because I've been fixing stuff and doing stuff in post-production, but I think it is a lot more fun.
Funny.
Yep, it's true.
You know something that I hate, by the way, this is these frickin' Canaan, do you drive a company vehicle?
Yeah, like once I get to the shop, yeah.
Do they have cameras in the vehicle?
No.
Oh my Lord. We got one of these cameras in the pickup truck. Okay, so not only do you just get the feeling that somebody's staring at you constantly, because
Yeah, they're watching you.
technically they
They want
could
to make
be.
sure you're not doing drugs
Oh,
or
they
drinking while
probably are.
driving.
Also, this camera will yell at you.
What?
Your seatbelt's not on. Put your phone down. Please reduce speed. Yes. And you know how
that's
no.
you know how like with your car, if you don't put your seatbelt on for like a minute, it's like whatever. It
Does
just
this
gives
one
up.
shut off?
This does not shut off. This don't stop.
Oh no.
This woman yells at me. So here's the thing. And her idea, I'm talking like a human.
You think it's a woman?
It's a woman's
Is it a
voice.
woman's voice? Okay.
This camera, its idea of what the speed limit is wrong.
No.
So sometimes you'll be going along, going like 55, and the speed limit's actually 55. For some reason, it thinks it's 35, so it's yelling at you the entire time. Oh my goodness!
Man. Dude, that's horrible.
And so there the other day, I was trying to make some time. I had a meeting. I was in a company vehicle, and this thing yelled at me for like 40 miles, dude. I was ready to put the truck into the wall.
Dude, no more sleeping on the job for you.
But I did figure something out. So I wear these Bluetooth headphones at work all the time, where I'm constantly listening to whatever. And they're the bone connectivity headphones. So they like touch your jaw, and then the sound goes through your jaw and into your ear.
Okay.
So then you can put earplugs in. So I discovered if I put earplugs in and turn my podcast up really loud, all of a sudden I can't hear the camera yelling at me no more.
Dude,
Problem solved.
I've never heard of such a thing though. That's kind of like I knew about cameras in there, but I didn't know they actually like talk to you. A woman yelling at you. Man,
Oh, yeah.
Was it Mariah's voice by chance?
It was.
Oh.
This stuff, it's. I'm waiting on Miss to come back because I guess Squeak started hollering. It kind of aggravates me because you think about it when you have a camera and they're watching, because there's two cameras on this thing, one that watches the road and one that watches you. It's basically like a company telling you, we really don't trust you. We still,
That's exactly what they're saying.
I want to insult you right off the top.
Right off the bat, we just want to insult you. Oh man, man, I don't like cameras, dude. We have them. We don't have them in our trucks, but we have them all over our office, and it's just I hate like walking by because like you know those people are watching it because they even laugh and talk about it. Like I saw it last night. It's like oh crap, what was I doing?
Yeah. What did you see?
Oh man.
So Miss, we got. This is kind of your thing here. You're the one who brought this up to me.
Thank you. Give me the reins tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Tell them what's going on here and who we got on, all that kind of stuff.
So, as you know, we have Phil Sparks that's here, and then we have Canaan Mariah. No, I'm kidding.
Where's the car crash? Is it that one? There it is.
No. So we have a special guest tonight. And we'll be talking about a touchy subject. Just want to make that clear.
Will we?
Yes, we will. More not so you, I guess, because you said that you want to take a back seat on this one.
Well, yeah, because you brought this up to me, and I'm like,
I did, and he was like, I don't know what else to say. This is very point blank. Yes, this is wrong, and I'm like, yes, but there are different people that have different feelings about this, and so their version is different than a different version. And as we explain this, I think our listeners will understand a little bit better of what we're talking about.
First of all, who's on the phone?
But we do have a special guest, Sara Teter. She
Sara
is here.
Teter.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So do you want to mention what we were talking about, or do you just want to?
I'll let you take the intro.
All right. So the topic on this we're going to be talking about is sex inside marriage. And we're going to be talking about the things we know about it and the negative sides of it that have been painted by the CHM, as well as the horror stories that go with it.
Which, by the way, this topic was sprung on me
It sure was.
at about noon. And it's like, hey, we're going to talk about sex. I'm like,
he's like, okay, bring the tequila. Let's go. No.
It sounds like something I would get in trouble if we talk.
And there's the CHM coming out of you right there.
I guess so.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And there's nothing that embarrasses Phil more than talking about sex.
Yeah. I try not to get embarrassed, but
How do you not? How do you get embarrassed?
CHM mindset, baby.
It is.
CHM mindset.
It really is.
I
Yeah,
guess I'm just a very open
We might as well
person.
shave our beards and put a suit and tie back on. We're practically CHM.
No, please do not. Please. No, but I was talking to Sarah. Phil's the one that would feel bad with going through the store and seeing the magazines on the walls.
What?
Oh, see, I never felt bad about that.
Exactly.
We know you didn't.
Yeah, well, that's very clear.
Yeah, you got my mind. I'm thinking here.
I know
thinking.
you are.
And I can take out pauses later, so that's
It's
why
fine.
I'm not.
I'm fine with that. I'd rather you take your time thinking than to blurt out something you'd have no idea what you're saying.
Well, then I probably shouldn't say anything.
No, but I do have a few questions that I would like to have the input of Canaan, Mariah, and Phil, and I'm sure Sara Teter is going to give her side of it because she was from a different time period than we were.
Yeah, sorry, I'm old. It's okay.
So, but like her views on things and her upbringing, I'm sure it's going to be painting her story. And so I'd like to have the input of everybody in regards to this topic.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I like what's our Nick Lavender and
yeah.
Beyond the Vow. They've
Beyond the Vow.
been talking about some of this in regards to how the CHM looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
They also went through.
Are we going way darker than they are?
That book by E. Shellhammer right there. They covered some of that.
Dear.
Some of the crazy.
I was wondering where we're going to cover that.
Yeah,
That book is very weird.
Yeah, that's what. So they've talked some about it. So I've listened to some of them, and it needs to be talked about as far as with the CHM.
Right.
It was very weird.
Yes.
Looking back on.
Necessary topic.
Yeah, it's necessary.
So what we are talking about is just sex inside marriage, as well as is marital rape something that is approved? What have you heard? Things like that.
See, that's the one. When you brought that up to me, I was like,
yeah. His eyes got big.
what?
As big as grasshoppers.
I didn't realize it was an issue. I guess
Yes.
to me, it's a solid.
Mhm.
Well, no, it's not okay. But apparently it goes on.
Yeah. And Kate and Mariah, you guys too, you're just like, no, like, well, why are you even having this conversation? But have you heard of marital rape inside the CHM?
I mean, I figured it was.
I didn't
It's
really
not.
know it was a thing. I never heard anything really about that. I'm kind of like what Phil said. Like it's wrong. I just thought everybody thought it was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I think the problem is like so many people don't think that it is possible because the view on once you're married is that it's typically from the male side, but that men are entitled to whatever they want because they are married. It's like contractual.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's where it gets kind of touchy because you do say, like, you know, you guys are in this together. You are now one body. You're like, it becomes this really big ball of confusion because you have different people having different views on what the Bible has to say in regards to Bible verses.
I look back at after you started talking about this to me today, Miss. We was kind of going over it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember, and we probably all could think of someone
Sure.
that you would see this couple, and sometimes there were multiple couples within the CHM. Actually, there were multiple couples, but they would just stick out as like the wife just kind of reminded you of a whipped dog, and that was what was out in public.
Yeah.
Like I've even heard of like this one situation where we talked one time about how people would call on someone to testify.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear so-and-so testify and all that. Well, and they would call on this lady to testify, and her husband would stand up and be like, I'll testify for her.
I'll testify for her.
Got
yeah.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Oh my.
Whoa.
like, I think this same lady, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not speaking on the school here, her family was getting ready to go away for a while. Her husband wouldn't even let her hug her dad.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
Ew.
what?
it's to the point that there is a problem with the husband.
Well, and after thinking about that, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess marital rape. I guess there are. I can only imagine how far that situation that I see with my own two eyes. I can only imagine how far it would go.
Right. Whenever they're so controlling that they feel like
sure,
they
it gets
have
worse
to
when nobody's
speak.
around.
Yes, and that brought up, like Sarah was talking, like, what do you do in those situations and the wife is trying to say something, but it's so undercover because the husband is the upstanding person in the church or in a position of power that it's not believable. They don't want to believe what the wife has to say.
Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of backtracking that has to happen before we get to this point.
Sure.
Because what you're saying is true. A lot of times, I mean, public personas are just that. They're personas.
Yeah.
But then there are, I mean, the people that I want to be around are the ones who are the same in public and in private. Like, they're always going to be consistent across the board to be kind and considerate to whomever they're interacting with. And you might have to take out my pauses, Phil, because I'm going to try to say this.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Say this as succinctly as I can. It is my opinion and belief based on my personal research that the teachings that we have grown up with, and this extends well beyond my 40 plus years of life. I mean, growing up in like the CHM and fundamentalist churches, that the man is the head of the household. And by being the head of the household, that means that he is in charge. He gets the last say. He's the decision maker. And the wife is secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is in every way. Like, her opinions, if it's a kind man, will often play into his decisions, but they may not be made mutually because he is in charge. He is supposedly, God's authority over her.
Yeah.
I've seen that. It's just I'm thinking through, different scenarios. I've absolutely seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, I have too.
So the way that plays out, and this is, unfortunately, I've heard this story like directly told to me, is that scriptures will be weaponized against her if she does not want to have sex with him. Then she is told she is sinning because she's not submitting.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
So this is where, and I used to subscribe to this thinking, okay? So like, this is a big jump for me. But now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it.
Right. And this goes back to the question I want to ask each one of us here and get the input. What were you taught when it comes to sex? Is it something that whenever you want it, I'm just supposed to lay down and that's how it's supposed to go? Or is this like a mutual thing? Like, because whenever Phil and I were talking, and we were talking about how the servant mentality, in a good way, like he does things that make me happy. He wants to make me happy and serve me. Like he'll go put stuff in the dryer for me that make me happy. Like fills my love tank. He shows he loves me in different ways. And that also comes into the bedroom when it comes to sex, because isn't that the whole idea of sex, to be that it is a giving thing? Not only are you making him happy, he's also making you happy. That's how I am viewing it.
Well, intimacy does not begin in the bedroom.
Right.
Correct.
Intimacy starts emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Hello, emotional affairs.
Intimacy, yeah. Well, yeah, and intimacy is gained or had, like outside the bedroom when you are working together as a team, not one over the other.
Right.
when you're working together as a team, especially like once you have children, so often mom is left home alone with the children all day long.
Right.
And dad's only job is to go to work, make money, and come home.
Right.
And even then, a lot of popular authors, on marriage subjects who don't actually have degrees in marriage subjects, they're like, oh, well, he needs to have that like time to decompress when he comes home. Like he needs that 20 or 30 minutes, even though he may have just driven 20 or 30 minutes in silence.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if he's had a bad day at work, then he needs that time to decompress. And, even though mom is 24/7, like there's never time for her to decompress. Because it's always her responsibility to raise the children, to keep up the house, to make the meals, and to take care of her man.
Right. That to the point, it's almost like her needs are not met. Is that where you're going?
It's an obligatory chore.
Mm-hmm.
It's obligation sex.
I like how so many of these men, he was talking about these guys write these marriage books. They seem to know what I need.
Yeah.
Yes. They're very assuming. And the other thing that gets assumed a lot is that all men lust.
Mm.
Like lust is just a massive problem across the board, period. Does not matter who you are. Like if you're a man and you see an attractive woman and you notice that, then you're lusting, and it's going to go from just noticing that she's an attractive woman, because I'm sorry, we all have eyes. There are attractive people in this world beyond our spouse. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to notice that. But their thought is that you can't just stop there. You will lust after that person.
And you'll have terrible ideas in your mind and that go beyond just noticing that, hey, that person's actually really good looking.
I think their definition, in my experience, their definition of lust was off. Because they would look at that first initial recognition that that's an attractive person.
Right. That first look of,
oh, crap.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, this was one thing that I learned that was kind of a little bit earth shattering for me when I started, when I read Sheila Ray Gregoire's book. And I know there's other authors, but it's The Great Sex Rescue. And there's a ton of data in there that is just mind boggling and so freeing, to be honest. But that's one of the things, is that we've grown up thinking that noticing someone is attractive is lust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not.
I can see that.
We also tell our boys growing up, you're going to, if you see girls, you're going to lust. So then why are we so shocked when they see girls and they lust?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we're teaching them that basically you can't help it. You're going to be doing this no matter what. And
we're telling them that this is how they're made, and it's not true.
Right.
I think my experience growing up and what I saw was maybe a little different than some in the CHM, because there are a lot where the women are, and I used to hear preaching on this, that women are expected to be in the home and like Sarah, like you was mentioning, whatever people writing these books saying that, needs to be there just to cater to every need. And they would preach, that the woman can't work. She just needs to be there raising the kids. And that the one preacher would even say, if you've got to have two people working, then you're just living above your means. It's like, dude, as you roll in here in a 450 Ford, with a big old camper, you know what I'm saying?
True.
Spending $500 to $600 at Christopher and Banks. I've heard this.
Yeah.
The wife should not be having to work because her goal in life, her mission, her calling in life is to take care of the children. By working outside the home, she is misplacing her duties and her calling.
Well, and
I've heard this,
when I say that I saw something,
plenty. In fact, I used to subscribe to it.
When I say that I saw something different, I saw mom. She went back to college when she was 32, became a physician's assistant, and was a very self-sufficient woman before dad ever passed away.
Yeah.
You know, and
what did they say? What did they say? You're not gonna.
She got a lot of sideways.
Yes,
looks.
she did. They were like,
yeah.
"You're not gonna leave Ralph now, are you?" Because like she's able to provide for herself, and I'm like, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
A woman actually makes some decent money.
My grandma, she worked.
Yeah.
She worked pretty much as long as I could. I mean, until her health got too bad.
Right.
But I think I got a little bit of a different, because we would hear some of the preachers that would preach that the women don't need to be outside the home. We just kind of be like, all right, next, you know, and just kind of
you whatever. Just write it off. You're just like, okay, that's for you, not for me. Moving on.
And also, anybody that knows my mom knows that she's not the kind of person pushed around. So I didn't see a whole lot of that neither.
You will not find another man for your mom because she always says the men she meets are not as manly as she is. And that goes for you.
He just wasn't manly enough, was he?
No.
There's an editing part.
Oh, that's okay. I just had to say it.
Not a topic for now.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. So that's what I saw up close and personal.
Right.
But I also, I mean, from a distance, I saw the other side. I saw people being, you know, pushed into that other way of thinking. I never quite understood it because that's what I saw from mom and dad.
Right. And so it was confusing for you because in your mind, you're just like, wait, this is how I was. What's the problem?
Well, and when you mentioned marital rape, that's why to me it's like,
no, it's wrong to rape. Right.
The culture in our house growing up was just like, no, what are you doing? You know, next question.
Yeah.
We just didn't see it. Like that whole thing of the women being pushed down. Well, I didn't see it up close. I know it was there.
You know,
right. But
yeah, I've received 3 different messages from people talking about their personal experiences, where they said that they could not leave an abusive marriage because it was better to stay in that marriage so they weren't breaking the family apart. So she had to just do what she was supposed to do to keep him happy so that the kids would not grow up without a father. And
oh my goodness,
I remember,
that makes me ill.
Yes, it's messed up the mind, and I'm thinking, where do they get that in the Bible? And what it was, and I'm not sure if you mentioned it, Sarah, or if someone else did, that it would be for the salvation of the husband, that she was submitting herself. Yeah. And that was what Paul said in the Bible. Remember that verse? And this goes back to that. And there's so many scripture verses that they are twisting in this, saying that women are supposed to be submissive to their husbands and they're supposed to be doing the thing, respecting him and his authority. And I'm kind of like, but there's more to this too, because like Phil was saying, he never lords over me. He hears my opinion about things. We are pulling together at like trying to make it to heaven. And so that right there does not, he's showing me love versus like, you know, raping someone. I'm sorry. No.
Man, what a contrast.
Yeah, I know.
Canaan and Mariah, what did you guys see?
So you talked about like your mom and stuff working and stuff. I actually seen it up close that mom didn't work, and unfortunately, I'd even hear my dad say, you know, I am the man of this house and crap like that. And so I definitely did see that kind of stuff up close.
The culture that you saw, it was a whole thing of women shouldn't be outside the home.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, my dad was crippled, and my mom would stay at home because he didn't feel like she should. I mean, that's what I grew up with, and it's, you know, it's horrible.
Did your mom feel like her goal and her mission and her ministry in life was to take care of you kids?
Yeah, I think somewhat to a point. But I think there was also times, you know, she would talk about getting a job or, you know, whatever, because obviously money was tight, you know, and of course, you know, you hear dad, no, my wife is not going to be working, you know, so, so yeah, that's what dad wanted, you know, and that's what dad got.
Mariah, you saw something different because of your mom being a single mom, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, so he left when I was 11. And honestly, like, I don't remember a ton before then. And I honestly, like, I wish I did so I could remember, like, how it was. So I could know not to be a parent like that. Not my mom, but my dad, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to unpack there. That's not a story for now. But my mom's always worked. She always worked. I mean, even from the time we were little babies, she always worked at a daycare so we could be with her. And so we always went with her. So we were always with her, but she always worked her whole life. And then after my dad left, well, not my dad, I claim Homer now, but Bruce, after he left, she went back to being a full-time student. She worked full-time and then had 4 kids. So, I mean, it was just, you did what you did to survive.
Did she get very many sideways glances and stuff because of that?
Oh yeah. I mean, we were pretty much like,
you were the outcast.
Yeah. Because of it being a divorce.
How dare you? Now, I will say there were some people who obviously still accepted us. We still went to like the church that we went to, and that family, the pastor family, was always, I mean, I still have the utmost respect for them, and they're very, very deep CHM people, but I literally have the utmost respect after how he showed grace and love to my mom and to us as a family.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was never a question. You just worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do what you got to do.
Yeah,
she's still working.
Yeah. She didn't
even the widow in the Bible, like she had to work, and she even sent her kids out to work too, because like her sons.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
in the
true.
Old Testament.
That's true.
Like there's so many examples of women working, and then they don't want to.
Which I know what we're talking about is more than just women working, but I feel like it's kind of an indicator.
It does.
You know, it can kind of make
Yeah, it kind of goes with the idea too that we were talking about women being viewed as second rate. Like they're not to be they were supposed to be at home and then taking care, and then they're supposed to be having that 15 minutes while the supper is cooking to freshen up their faces because the husband doesn't want to come home to a raggedy looking wife. I don't know if you guys remember that flyer. It's like 1950s, how to keep your husband happy.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember that one?
I do.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, it was a mess. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no. The kid's
horrible.
screaming. I hand the baby to Phil, and I'm just like, I'm making dinner. You take care of the baby for me. Phil's smiling at me because he knows it happened.
That's true. That's how it's supposed to go.
Right.
My opinion.
Yeah. Yep. You helped me out.
And I'll take that one step further, and like, not to be like whatever, but like we have a very mutual understanding that I work a full-time job with my child being with me. So not only am I a full-time mom, full-time housekeeper, I'm a full-time worker. I have a full job.
Wow.
that I get paid. And so, I mean, not only am I working like 25 jobs, like I'm, I don't know. I can't stay home. I am staying home while working, if that makes sense.
Right. Now, I was reading too, they talk about how being a mother is like 2.5 jobs, full-time jobs.
Yeah, the estimated salary for a full-time mom is $152,000. I saw that yesterday.
Yep.
Canaan, we in the wrong profession.
You want to be a mom? All right. No,
I told him he could be the stay-at-home mom.
But like Mariah, like she's doing a full-time job as well as being a mother.
Right.
So basically she's doing 3.5 jobs.
But honestly, like with the way, like I tell everybody this, and honestly, most of the time he's not even with me, but like since having another one, like Canaan's been my savior. Like the ways that he has stepped up and the things that he's done, it's blown me away. And yeah.
Heck yeah. Dude, look at you get the praise there, Canaan.
I appreciate the kind words, but my goodness, it's awkward.
Let's all stare at Canaan now.
No,
I like
but so Canaan.
I mean, I do, but
right. So Canaan now.
It's not his love language, so it's not what he's used to.
Man, it's hot in here. I'm burning up.
Canaan, I just want to say I also think you're a very beautiful individual.
Aww.
From the bottom.
You too, Phil.
Boy.
Oh, man.
Embarrassing. So, Canaan, now that you see this side of it, and you know about marital rape, what are your thoughts? Like, would your expectations, if you were still in the CHM from Mariah, would you expect her to do stuff even if she didn't want to? Because she's exhausted.
He doesn't have the sex drive for that.
Dang.
Okay.
Canaan,
I'm just being honest.
Just went from that compliment, dude. To just,
I'm talking now.
Dang.
As a CHM man, you grew up in it, so you would know. That's why I'm asking you, and I'm going to ask Phil this too. Being a full-time working mom, so you're working outside the home and in the home. if you were still in the CHM, would your views, like, is she still supposed to service you even if she's exhausted?
If I was like CHM, like still in the CHM, still had that CHM
Because your mentality is
mindset.
different now. It is definitely different now. You're not saying the stuff you were 5 years ago.
Yes, 100%. So you're trying to like saying switch it back to that.
Right.
So yeah, as a young man still in the CHM when we were married, I've always tried to stay clear of that. So I've always tried to, I never tried to say Mariah was any less or, or that she couldn't do anything, or I never made decisions without, asking her, talking it over. We've always done that jointly. So no,
Did you really though?
Did you really?
No, he has tried to talk to you. I know firsthand that he'd be like, yeah, I need to talk to Mariah about that though. And now this is later on after you guys have children. So I don't know what it was like in Florida and stuff like that. But my personal
in Florida, I never
with
saw
you guys.
her. So
Exactly. So you didn't even ask her.
She worked 2 jobs and I was working one.
I will say that there are some things that we never talked about. Not talked about, but we never, like, it was never like, I need her approval. And that was real estate. And it's because he has such a drive and I was so scared that he had to take the leap. And honestly, like, I'm so glad he didn't listen to me because he's doing phenomenal. But I mean, it's, I almost respect him more for that. You know what I mean? Like, I respect him more for taking that leap, even though it's.
Yeah, I didn't really talk too much about that, did I?
Nope.
I forgot about that. Forget all that I said.
It's okay. There is forgiveness.
I've forgiven you.
That is right. I think somebody did ask me the advice on that the other day. They're like, I said, hey, you're just gonna have to man up and do it, man. Like that's kind of all there is to it. If you want it bad enough, like I said, she'll see when the money starts rolling in. She'll come around. when you're buying Michael Kors, you know what I'm saying? She ain't gonna care.
So Phil,
no, I'm just joking. But what about you, Phil?
When it came to sex inside of marriage, was there ever a time like before when you were CHM? You don't feel this way now, obviously. Like you're very different in your thought process. But when you were a CHM boy, like was it your thought that the woman is supposed to service the man?
No.
At all times, even if she didn't want to.
And I credit that completely to. I mean, Dad was an old redneck from West Virginia, so Dad was born in 1933.
Right.
That's a long time ago, and Dad had a lot of that stressed respect for women as far as teaching to open the door and stuff like that. No, not a bit. And of course, Mom, no.
Yeah, Mom would have beat anybody if you had that idea.
Mom would have whipped my rear end. To this day, she would.
Yeah,
He's like, to this day.
She's the only reason I behave.
She has a cutting board ready for you. But yeah, for me personally, and then I want to hear Sarah's side of it too. I never, ever felt that way at all. Even while I was in Papua New Guinea, where the women are actually bought. Now I've seen different sides of this, so I'm going on 2 different sides. The women were actually bought for a certain price. The father would say how much he wanted for his daughter, and so then that was a bride price, and then he had to scrounge up however much the father wanted. And if the father said no, I'm not, and you could have less than, but if he accepted it and you at least tried to meet what he wanted. So,
like, do you take a card, sir?
Do you take a credit card?
That's crazy.
But that's what I grew up with. And over there, I will say, I don't know necessarily that my friends were raped, but I do know that if you were not a Christian, it was not good for you.
Really?
Yes. And I actually had a friend who was like getting married and they said, "Oh, I'm so glad he's a Christian guy. I'm so glad." And this is what I've seen in Papua New Guinea. And that was my first idea that there was something going on abusive wise when it came to sex outside, like in marriage. So that was the PNG side of it. American side of it, I didn't even really know much about it. I walked in on my parents one time, and that was awkward. And that was the only experience I ever had with that whole thing. But I never.
But you weren't
once-
taught that.
No.
That was the.
No,
Yeah.
no. In fact, my parents were like, whenever you meet the right guy, you will know, and you will, like, you guys get married, and then you guys can do whatever you want then, and that's between the two of you. And it was always this mutual. He's going to love me. He's not going to force me, which I'm very thankful for, because my
I think that's the way
dad.
it's supposed to be.
Yep, my dad was very okay. Like, you are a woman, and you are like far above rubies. Like, that's what your goal is. You want to be a woman that is like loving Jesus and like being all the best that she can be, so I can be a good helpmate for my future husband. And that idea was painted in my mind. It was never, okay, this is how it's going to be. You just need to be quiet and just accept it. This is how it's going to be. So I never had that. Sarah, what was your thoughts?
Okay, so like I'm the old one.
Right.
At least comparatively. So for me, growing up, like I think across the board, there was just not a lot of talk about sex, period.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were lucky if you got the birds and the bees.
Yeah.
So like for me, like my first memories of even learning about like dating and marriage and all that stuff came from actually a Sunday school class. And we went through the True Love Waits series. And that was like my first introduction to like purity culture. And so that would have been in the 90s.
And what is purity culture for the young ones? We have younger than us.
So purity culture.
Explain that a little bit for me.
So purity culture is, okay, this is to my best understanding and off the top of my head, but purity culture is the response to like the 60s and like 70s sexual
The hippie era.
awakening of the American culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're just kind of like, nothing was off limits anymore. And so like the church in response, as they seem to in a lot of ways, when they see something like that happening, they respond with a pendulum swing to the opposite end.
Right.
So we have the sexual revolution happening and everything is up for grabs. And then you have the church responding with like, lock it down, be pure and be holy. And like in themselves, those are not bad. Like, clearly we should be pure and we should be holy.
Right.
And then, but then there's like the response to that as well in the modesty teachings. And they like hypersexualized, especially girls and women, with the modesty messages. And unfortunately, this is not across the board, but this is not uncommon, but to like sexualize even infants and what they're wearing, like whether or not they're wearing pants or if their legs are showing.
Yep.
Infants and toddlers.
Yep.
And then I remember that happening to me as early as probably 10.
Wow.
Feeling that energy from other people.
Yeah.
And that kind of attention. And I got talked to by a pastor and his wife at one point because, you can't talk to a girl alone. That my clothes were sending the wrong message.
Oh my.
And I was literally wearing the same thing as everyone else, a jean skirt and a t-shirt.
Sending the wrong message with a jean skirt and a t-shirt.
Yes. So it was inappropriate. They couldn't use me on the platform and I was being provocative.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Have mercy.
Like, you're talking about how, how girls that we naturally have our bodies, and you have the natural hip sway, and you have your boobs, and you have your stuff. I remember hearing a preacher once that said to a girl that she needs to maybe slouch a little more so her boobs aren't so prominent.
Slouch.
Yeah.
Well, you're not allowed to actually have the physical attributes of what you are.
Right.
Because obviously men lust. And
Right.
they can't control it. And therefore, if you dress in a t-shirt that a girl next to you with maybe a cup size or two smaller, where is wearing the same thing,
Right.
that's less provocative.
Mm-hmm.
And shame on us for having boobs.
That blows me. You need to have bad posture.
You need to just go like this. That way your boobs don't look so big.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like for me, like I'm tall, and I quit growing at this height when I was 14. And so I looked like a woman and I was a girl.
Yeah.
And I got treated like a woman. So like that was like kind of my introduction to
At 14
this world.
Jeez.
Well, yeah, I stopped growing height-wise when I was 14, and I was often mistaken for someone much older. But so yeah, purity culture. So purity culture is just like an overreaction to the sexual revolution of the 60s. And so we're going to like just lock down on everything.
Gee whiz. I can remember hearing, because you talked about them weirdly like sexualizing young kids, children, because of their clothes or whatever. The Memorial Day parade in Grafton was always preached against, and one of the reasons they would say it's because of the cheerleaders. It's like, and looking back on it now, I'm like, dude,
it changes your ideas of what they were meaning.
You're talking
doesn't
like middle school and high school girls. This is what you're worried about.
Yeah.
Like,
my.
Yeah, as adults, they're trying to like.
That's freaky.
Sorry, that's smack. Like
once I heard it so often that, and then just one day it clicked. It's like, oh wait a
minute.
Something odd there.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? How about that?
Something odd.
Oh my goodness. Yep.
To tie a lot of this stuff in, that it sounds like we're kind of random. It's actually not. So when you grow up in that kind of culture, and you guys are like on the tail end of that, and then you also have like the view that women should stay at home and work and be like completely submissive, basically be a doormat. And realize that like women could not even have a bank account or a credit card in their name until I think the late 70s or early 80s. So like, if you think about that, like if you cannot financially support yourself, you can't leave.
That's true.
There's no way out. There's no way out. So even now, like not letting your wife work, it keeps them from being able to do anything but rely on you for their everything.
I have a friend who went and got car insurance, and this lady, she's probably about your age, Sarah, and she has a girl my age, and she got the car insurance and everything. She put her name down, put her husband's name down because he's going to be driving her car. She got the insurance with her husband's name on it as he's the one. And she's like, no, I'm the insurance. I signed up for this. And they said, but this is how we always do it. The man comes first. And she said, no, take him off then. She did. She stood up for herself. My car. And I was like, okay, girl. I mean, like, that's how you want to be. Go ahead. But because I guess he's able to.
That's really common.
Yeah,
that's
I was
really
shocked.
Common still.
Yep.
And actually, back to like marital rape, which is the whole subject.
Right.
It wasn't until
1993.
I want to say 1993 or 97 that the last state actually made it law that you couldn't rape your wife.
Holy cow.
I actually have it down. They even have, like,
is it 93?
Sarah, right here, 93. And
93, that's okay, you're right.
12 or 13 states, though, have special rules which will qualify as rape. There are three things. There's marital rape. There's hold on, it's on my phone. Oh my goodness, hold on. I remember this. I was talking and I was like, I need to get this so I can talk to Sarah about this. It was bad.
1993.
Phil, it's awful. It was shocking to me that they are still allowing rape to happen. So the states, marital rape criteria differs slightly from other rapes. So in Idaho and Utah, shock. Isn't that the Mormon areas? Okay.
Just threw it out there.
Yeah, it's Mormons. It's straight up.
We was all thinking.
Okay, this is what, Mississippi right here?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and then there's Florida, Georgia. What's the one above it? South Carolina?
Boy. You put me on the spot.
Yeah, like a lot of these different states. Ohio actually has different criteria for what qualifies
Yes.
as rape. Iowa has a different one. Michigan is different. There's so many different rules.
Now, when you talk about different criteria, what do you mean different criteria?
Oh, different criteria. So hold on. I
What
might have to get my
qualifies as
phone
rape?
down. Yes,
So, like,
there's
how
four
different are we-
different things.
So, like, I think some states don't qualify coercion as rape.
Yes.
Coercion.
Yes. Okay. So I mean,
So,
go
do you
ahead.
want me to say what that is?
Go ahead. Just talk. I'm fine.
So, like, coercive rape is where, like, say you ask your spouse if they, for permission, because you should, and they say no. And then you're not happy with that and you won't take no for an answer. And so you like, oh, but honey, blah, blah, blah. And you like won't take no and you guilt trip them into doing what they don't want to do.
So the recognition of marital rape and the treatment of it by the state legislatures and courts throughout the U.S. has grown immensely over the recent years. The state criminal justice systems throughout the country have advanced from widespread belief only 20 years ago that a husband could not be viewed as guilty under the law of forcing sexual intercourse with his wife. So this happened in 1993. That's how I remembered it was 20 years ago. Today, the law in many states breaks down marital rape crimes into various types discussed as below. So marital rape, there's three different ones. Against his wife's will and without her consent is one. Two, with her consent, but after having obtained the consent by causing to fear for her own life, death, or harm, or of her kids by her husband.
Oh, boy.
That's another type of coercion.
And when her consent is during intoxication or other circumstances of unsound mind, like she's been drinking or something like that.
A big one is they rape them when they're sleeping.
Yes. Isn't this crazy, Canaan, Mariah? Just 20 years ago, they just made it illegal.
Crazy.
That is.
So they have three different names for it. Force-only rape, and this is when like they're obviously being forced. Battery rape is the one where they're scared for their life because they're being threatened. Like, if you don't do this, I'm going to punch you, or you are punching them so that they give you what you want.
Jeez.
And it says obsessive sadistic rape. And this is the one where it involves torturing the wife and committing acts of perversion against her. And the attacks include forced, bizarre sexual acts.
Well, so another part of coercion too is like where like they know that if you say no, that you will just literally throw a temper tantrum for the next several days. Or however long,
and be
or
violent.
you'll give them a silent treatment. You'll be violent. You'll be mean to everyone. And so it's easier to just take it for the sake of the rest of the week or however long until you have
because you're scared for your
decided
children.
that you need this again.
Yeah,
Yes.
because what do you know? You don't know what they're doing whenever you're not there. Like there's a lot that can go into that. Yep.
Then you hear about these men who are just like, I don't understand why she doesn't want me.
Oh, yeah, right. That's awful. Oh my goodness!
Like,
there's a big
are you
reason
generally a nice person? Because that might answer a lot of questions.
But yeah, so let's talk about what does the Bible say about you want to?
Yeah, let me jump in here for a minute. So
Sure.
I'm thinking my gears are working here.
Sure.
There is, I'm assuming that this is different, but I know that me and you talked about this today.
Right.
There is a bit of a what would you call it? The mating dance the humans do.
Right.
Okay. There is a bit of a
where the man always chases the woman. Right. Well, and that's where flirting comes into it, and intimacy and stuff like that. Well, actually, the woman lion attacks the man if she's not getting enough sex. So that.
So what I'm getting at with that, I'm assuming it's different than like the the coercion. Sounds like it's way over the top.
Yeah.
But there is a bit of a. I don't know how to say it.
I think what you're talking about is there's an agreement that you've come to that you're just gonna.
No, it's just the way it goes. Like the usually typically doesn't always happen this way. The man pursues the woman. That and I'm not just talking in a sexual way. That's through dating and all that.
Well, yeah, usually that's why it was always looked down upon in the CHM that a woman talked to a guy first. That was oh my gosh, terrible.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not after him. That's why I talked to him first.
Yeah. And of course you have to forgive me here. I'm thinking a little bit out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So like intimacy though in the bedroom is a culmination of like mutuality and intimacy outside of the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
Yeah, sure.
That's correct.
You're both working, supporting each other, helping each other, loving each other. So by the time you come to the bedroom, like, that's the natural thing that's going to happen. Obviously, we're going to have bad days. We're going to be tired. We get sick. Women have PMS. We have babies. We have illnesses. Those are not times where we're supposed to be demanding that our, quote, needs, unquote, be met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that demanding is ever like.
Yeah.
Like, demanding should never be
should never be part of it.
Well, and
Ever.
that's what comes up too. Like, I'm sorry, if you're forcing someone to do something that they don't want to do, that right there is the first warning sign of, hey, wait. First, that's wrong. And two, that's not Bible. Like, the Bible says to love your wife. Forcing them to do something is wrong.
I look at it this way. Whenever it says for husbands to love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Right.
Which to me is a whole lot of love.
It sure
Ton.
is. Sure is.
And if I love you as I'm
Right.
supposed to,
Right.
I'm not going to be forcing you to do something against your will.
Right.
That's kind of how it breaks down to me.
I agree.
I think a lot of men lose sight of that 100%.
It becomes an interesting, what's the word? My needs. It becomes selfish. And that's where this
Right.
whole marital rape comes up. And that's why you have these preachers that are saying, hey, yes, she has to meet your needs, or she's going to go out there, or he's going to go out there and cheat on you. And it turns into this whole fear factor thing where they're trying to scare you into doing something. And isn't that what we're not supposed to be afraid? There's no fear in love.
Right.
So if you're afraid of that, then obviously he doesn't love you. And no, you're not going to sleep with him anyways. Like, it defeats the whole purpose.
Just because you get married, you don't give up your personhood.
Right.
Right. Well, one of the things too is, like, in all these marriage books, which are typically read by women, it is taught in most of these, like, supposedly experts, supposedly, that if you don't fulfill this man's need, again, they act like it's air.
Right.
If you don't do that, then he will go find it outside of you, whether that's via porn, whether that's like another woman, whatever. Like, he'll go find it, because if you're not providing it, and then he has to go find it because it's air to him.
Right.
See, this is something that type of thinking right there always bugs the crap out of me, because a man still has a responsibility to be a human being.
Right.
And if he's a Christian, to be a Christian. That's why I get so upset when I hear people talk about how they love to ride the whole thing. You better dress modest because of your, you might cause some man to lust.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're the stumbling block. Oh man, that's a big
fine.
conversation
And
too.
I know, I fully agree that a woman that shouldn't be her desires. Like, I want to cause somebody to lust.
I seriously want
but that's
someone
something you got to figure out.
Right.
Me, it's my job to keep myself straight.
You have
self-control and personal
Absolutely.
responsibility. And so many times, and honestly, it's kind of demeaning to men when you really think about it, because they paint us out to be animals.
Yes.
They can't control themselves. You better be careful, though. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility.
You said it.
Very, very true.
They paint men out to be animals.
Like it's nothing better than a buck in the rut or something like that. It's like, dude, we're better than that.
It's true. I got a buddy that he not long ago was even saying something like, man, they shouldn't be dressing like that. So I'm like, okay, I get that they shouldn't be, but it's like, you on the other hand need to have some self-control, and learn to look the other way or move on down the road,
Yeah, whatever you gotta do.
The fear thing too, because if the woman doesn't have a job, how is she going to support children? He's going to leave her. He's going to find someone who probably doesn't have kids, who has a better body than she does. Like, it turns into this big whole fear thing.
Or she knows that he's abusive and she can't leave because she can't support herself.
Exactly.
Absolutely.